Whether or not Rosalind Franklin will fly, I think it will depend on NASA coming back into it. NASA obviously left the European Space Agency in the lurch by pulling out of this program some years ago. And I think, we talked about this before, Adam Steltzner and Sky Crane, the Kazachok lander is not only instrumental to how this works. It was like how they were going to get down to the surface. And as you said, Schiaparelli, they'd had some problems before. And Russia have never, don't forget, successfully got anything onto the surface of Mars for more than about 16 seconds since the 1970s, when they managed to get something onto the surface, transmit a couple of lines, and that was about it. But as I said, it would be catastrophic. And the impact on the Soyuz launches, and don't forget, the Soyuz is one of the most reliable launch vehicles in the world. So the slack's going to have to be taken up. And Ariane 6 and the Vega rocket, and there's lots of options out there. But whether or not they can take up the slack, especially, commercial companies like OneWeb, this could really put them in serious jeopardy. So it's interesting, again, just kind of looking at the chat, and people like, again, Ground-Based Space saying very surprised that there wasn't a kind of contingency. And yes, and people have been following me on Twitter. I've been saying this for years. The reliance on a Proton rocket, especially given the Russians' lack of success on Mars, I always thought was a big risk. Anyway, never mind what's happening right now. So the contingency, I think this will be a big lesson for most of the space sector, in that, we'll talk about this with Ingenuity and the use of commercial off-the-shelf technologies in later in the show. But I think there needs to be more flexibility, I think, now, in terms of, launch providers, fairing systems, fairing integration, etc. And I know there are companies looking at this. I know there are companies that are looking at almost as what they call Legoization of space, where you can almost use building blocks from different systems and integrate them together. That, I think, is going to be probably the way forward, I think, from this, because so much money's been lost in space exploration, so much science has been lost, and that's the real tragedy. It's not the money can be recouped, etc. Lives are lost. You can't recoup lives, and you can't recoup potentially lost science. You've got to, in some cases, you've got to just bite the bullet, pardon the expression, and say that's it. We've lost it.